Hi, folks. Welcome to your Fat Egg podcast. This particular episode of the Fat Egg podcast sponsored by Gersnet. Gersnet don't know they're sponsoring it. The reason they're sponsoring it is I'm using the Gersnet microphones, the wee outside broadcast microphones that Frankie got us especially for our post-match reaction pods to make things nice and professional. He then let me do post-match reaction pods, and that was a professionalism right out the window. Unfortunately, I'm going to be unable to continue doing the post-match reaction pods for Gersnet next season because I'm pursuing my UFC career full time, ultimate food consumption. And with that in mind, I think there's been a lot of gossip. I'm hearing a lot of rumours about a lot of nastiness being talked about in the Gersnet canteen. People implying that because I'm so bitter at having to hand over the microphones to younger guys. Who are going to do a much better job than me next season. I've been taking these wee mics and, picking my nose with them and sticking them in my ear and that kind of thing. And I just want to rest assure the boys on Gersnet that no, I have not been doing that. The second I am finished doing a post-match reaction pod outside Ibrox or outside Hampden, these microphones go straight back down the front of my pants where I keep them, for safety's sake, to get them into the game, get them past the stewards. So nice and warm for you boys. You enjoy that. Also, want to reassure Frankie that there's going to be no controversy going to come back to hit Gersnet in association with myself through me talking about anything too controversial tonight. It's just going to be standard stuff, just we chat about abortion, climate change, gender identity, and the situation in the Middle East. So everything's going to be great, although there is something controversial. I do want to talk about the reason I'm doing this little video, a kind of end of season video. I don't really know what it is. It's just something I realised I needed to get stuff off my chest. Did my Gersnet post-match reaction pod outside Hampden, back at 5 last Saturday, just after the game had finished. And here I am a week later. This is Saturday the 1st of June. Champions League final is on tonight. I'm recording this basically, it's 7 days exactly after kick-off at Hampden in the 2024 Scottish Cup final, which you may have heard that Rangers lost by 1-0 to Celtic. And I thought I'd kind of got it out of my system there. You try to get as much out of your system as possible in these post-match reaction pods. There's always stuff you miss out, For example, I was talking about how we were waiting for the man, and that led me into a bit of Puccini, a bit of Lou Reed, and I didn't mention up Lexington 125. It's not me going to. I'd been to Harlem. That's a lyric in that Lou Reed song. Sorry, Velvet Underground song. I'd also stayed in Lexington. I've stayed in Lexington Avenue in New York. Like the first time I went to New York, 2002. Went to New York in September 2002. 12th of September 2002. I shit you not. Unbelievable. Went over there for 10 days. Stayed in Manhattan. Absolutely fantastic. We stayed in Lexington Avenue in this massive hotel. And I can't remember. I need to go and check again if it's the same building or if it's just on the same site. But it used to be a maternity hospital. I think Lexington 64th, perhaps. It's Midtown anyway. And as I was coming out of the hotel one day, there's a plaque at reception, a plaque, and not just the door. I think there's a plaque outside the place as well. And there's a big Irish harp on it. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? It's like you can't get a pint in New York unless you pretend to be Irish. But I walked up to this thing, and it was Eamon de Valera. Eamon de Valera, born in New York. He was born in that building. The first place I stayed in New York. The first time I ever stayed in New York. That was me. Eamon de Valera was actually born in the place that I stayed in. And it kind of plays into the theme of, you're probably noticing this week, you can't get away from them. You just can't get away from them wherever you go. I'll tell you what happened to me on Sunday last week. I think we've all had a few texts and things like that from Celtic supporting friends who suddenly just want to talk about football. What's your problem? I'm walking. Yesterday, I was going for a wee walk around about the local area, and I'm just heading back home. And the sun's out, so I'm an old fat guy. Try to lose a bit of weight. I'll get 6 weeks to lose weight. Once the season starts again, I'm just eating and drinking just to try and make up for the stress of following Rangers. So I get a chance to go from morbidly obese to just merely obese over the summer months. And I was trying to make the best of that yesterday, get an early start on it, and I'm walking along, and there's a young fella, maybe 30 or something like that, young compared to me anyway, just kind of cuts in front of me as we're walking, like cutting me up as we're walking along a pavement. And I'm thinking, I've got my Chicago Bears baseball cap on, but you can't have seen it for the back, you just see some old fat guy. But I was wearing a kind of blue t-shirt. It's like your whole wardrobe, it's like open the cupboard doors, and it's like a deconstructed Union Jack I've got. You just don't even think about it, that you're buying all these things that are blue and red or red and black and stuff like that. So it's very difficult for me to find something that's neutral coloured. But I was out walking anyway, too busy having a mild heart attack to give a shit about what I was wearing. And this fella jukes in front of me. And I was like, was he? But there was somebody else coming out the other side of coming towards us than the other side of the pavement. So that explained why I had to kind of get in quick. I'm fat and slow, so obviously he's walking a bit faster. And I noticed behind, the collar of his shirt. He had a wee jacket on, but the collar of his shirt it was black, a black t-shirt. He had like a polo shirt, and there was a green border all around the bottom of the collar. I'm thinking, he's a fucking Celtic supporter. You probably, you just see a guy in a blue t-shirt and he's thinking, we beat you, I'm going to get in front of you and just show you that we're the best, and speed in front of you like we did during the league title race, and I'm like, absolute bump. But then I'm thinking, should I do something about this? Just that kind of mad bit in the back. Shouldn't I let my way with this? And I'm just a danger to myself when it comes to any kind of physical conflict. But maybe I should just say something, and get it doing. But while I was kind of worrying whether I should do this or not, while I was basically boiling away, having a wee rage, the boy takes his jacket off because it is roasting. It was Marks and Spencer's employee t-shirt that he was wearing. Their colours involve green, M&S. I'm thinking, Christ, the boy's probably as staunch as you, and you're absolutely raging at him for no reason at all. What is it that's bothering you? What is it that's bothering? And I just didn't get it all out my system. And there was other stuff has happened to me this week. Other stuff has dawned on me. It was a real slow burner, the cup final last week. I know anytime you lose a momentous match, anytime you're involved in a momentous match, even if we had been playing, if it hadn't been the end of the season, if Rangers had a league game on Wednesday there and they were playing the Champions League final tonight, you would still be taking in stuff to take on board, kind of marinating after that Scottish Cup final last week. But with no other Rangers football to look forward to, it's really taken over. It almost got to the point where part of me, on Thursday, when it was announced that James Bisgrove had left the club, our CEO had left the club, we wanted heads to roll because we'd only won the most minor of the three major trophies in Scotland. Well, James is certainly off to the land where heads literally do roll. People are beheaded by the state in Saudi Arabia. Not going to get controversial. Not want to get Jersey in any trouble here. So a part of me was kind of like, yeah, that's us automatically. The way football just won't let you stand still. The great thing about football is even when you lose, next thing you're getting dragged into the next game, or in this case, getting dragged into the next season. And we're suddenly thinking, we've got to patch up the team that's actually on the park all season, and now we're having to patch, to get us through that season, and now we're having to patch up the executive team in the boardroom to get us through the close season. 2024-2025 has started, and we'd already been signing players and negotiating stuff well before the Scottish Cup final last week. You're always planning ahead as a football club the size of Rangers. But as supporters, I felt that was a moment that kind of dragged us, whether we liked it or not, into 2024-2025 season. But I wasn't ready to go. And what was it? I think kind of Monday, Tuesday, the mood music in my head was kind of Eric Satie. It was very minimalist, very phlegmatic, kind of existentially, kind of like, yeah, it's sad, but it's just part of life, the circle of life. Let's just take this in and plinky plonky. On you go, everything's going to be okay, kind of thing. But come kind of Wednesday, Thursday, right up to the point the Bisgrove bombshell dropped and gave us all something to get excited about. It was Ibroxonia. And it still is Ibroxonia. This tune, the tune I'd certainly heard before, I'd heard the song Caledonia. I didn't know about the song. I didn't know what the Rangers fans were singing. I'd heard it at Ibrox, I think maybe the Dundee game recently, we beat them 5-2. I'd heard the tune, and for some reason I got it in my head, it was a song about Todd Cantwell. I couldn't make out the lyrics that the young dudes were singing, and they seemed quite involved. But obviously the chorus, let me tell you that I love you and I think about you all the time. I knew that bit just from hearing it. It was a tune, like a song I pretty much hated, quite kind of mawkish Scottish stuff. I hate that idea of Scotland. Very sentimentality is the other side of viciousness, and of course it did follow on after us singing the Billy Boys at the start of the game last week at Hampden, just as the Celtic fans told us to go home, you Huns, before they get into singing You'll Never Walk Alone. So that's football fans. Viciousness and sentimentality are always easy bedfellows, but I didn't know about this, so I didn't know the lyrics, I didn't know what was going on, and now I know the lyrics, and this song it's devastating. It's like It's like a birthday card. If you go into a shop, a card shop, and you're looking through, if you for some weird reason decided to look through the sentiments written inside birthday cards, you are the most amazing person I've ever met, blah blah blah. You're like, what a lot of crap. The minute somebody puts their name to that and sends that card to you, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they're sending. I'm the most amazing person. Same with this song. I was like, this is absolutely unbelievable. It's just hitting me right there. But I didn't know the lyrics last Saturday when I was at Hampden, and I found out all about this song from my mate when I met him after the game, as we tend to do after Rangers have played at Hampden these days. And that's a story. This is stuff you won't know, and I'm going to tell you that later in this video. Absolutely brilliant stuff. But I'm singing this song, just singing. I didn't know the lyrics. I thought it was a Todd Cantwell song. When Todd Cantwell got subbed off last week and he come round past the Rangers end and his way off the park, the song was coming out again. That confirmed it for me. Oh, it must be about Todd Cantwell. What are all these lyrics are? I'm just belting it. Let me tell you, I love you, I think about you all the time. And I'm humming along with the rest of it because just try to get behind the team, try to keep them going as they went toe to toe with Celtic last week. And I've heard since then, my mate put me right about it, and I looked into it, and I've seen it online, and I've had a demo sent to me as well. Oh, it's basically, it means that the world to me that the Rangers support the young dudes, the ultras, the Union Bears, and all that, are singing this song that is basically how I've felt and the stuff I've been expressing on Jersnet far too often. That people are getting sick of listening to me talking about 2012 and how I feel as if it will take Rangers 20 years from 2012. So we've only got about 8 years to go, as far as I'm concerned, before they're back in a level footing with Celtic. It's a generational thing, as far as I'm concerned. The devastation, the infrastructural devastation that we suffered in 2012, being down in the bottom division of league football in Scotland, take us a long time to get over that. And I don't throw it in as a kind of Deus Ex Machina, to get us out of anything. If, for example, Philip Clement had gone into the dressing room up at Dingwall after we lost to Ross County and said to them, "Don't worry about it, guys. It's just part of the recovery from 2012," I wouldn't be very happy. I mean, we got rid of Mark Warburton because he was basically doing the same thing. But you need to be fighting tooth and nail for everything that's right in front of you. You need to be in the now all the time as a Rangers employee, and as Rangers supporters as well. So I get why people don't want to use it as an excuse. But I think when it comes to big moments at Rangers these days, like for example, topically just now, James Tavernier people are hounding him out the door or whatever, and I'm not bothered whether Tav stays or goes. I would like him to stay and win the treble next season, whatever. But if I found out that he was going, I'd actually be quite excited about that as well to see what Clement was going to do. It would really change a vibe at the club. So I'm not bothered about it either way, but I am really bothered about people, hounding him and saying he's garbage because he's had a bad 2 months. He's a loser and he's a response. For me, he's a guy that's performing better than anybody else, more often than anybody else, and it seems really kind of oxymoronic to blame him for all our woes of the past 9 years or so. But the time he's been here, it's at times like that I use the context. I say, no, look, it's no. You kind of compare it to, oh, well, Callum McGregor's won so many trophies, and look how many he's won compared to James Tavernier in the same space of time. That's really bogus. It's also a Celtic meme to take attention off what we're doing in Europe. We shouldn't be doing that. And that's the time I try to say 2012. Look at what we've started from, the basis that we've come from, which is zero money, having to start again in the third division. Well, at Celtic were just coining in the Champions League money every season. Something that's happened all over Europe, even without teams having to, drop down to the third division. Bayern Munich, it's only this season, is the first season in 12 or 13 that they haven't won the Bundesliga. Juventus were on 9, 10 in a row at one point over in Serie A, which has been one of the toughest leagues in the world. And you see Man City for the first time ever winning the fourth straight English title. I know there's more to it when it comes to Man City with the money they're getting from other sources, but you see, monopolies are the way these days in European football, Champions League, the way it's set up, it compounds it all. So I use 2012 as a context all the time, but to hear the young dudes, the Rangers supporters, it wasn't just that they were singing it. And the lyrics of the song, when I found out, it's a guy who's, scared when Rangers, the holding company, went into liquidation and we're down the lower leagues. He's worried that we might not come back. So he starts talking about the good old days. And it was it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous to find out with that song what the lyrics actually involve. because that's how I feel. But it's also, I think the song is written, although it's a rewriting of the Caledonia lyrics. They're rewritten, obviously, round about 2012 to 2014. And it's now becoming, that's like 10 years ago at least, I would say. So it's now part of our history. It's almost kind of sentimentalising what happened to us in 2012 is a massive, a kind of martyrdom, almost something that we as supporters have overcome. We're bringing Rangers back to the top. And we're getting there, definitely. I mean, we're at Hampden 4 times this season. We've been to Hampden every game you could get to Hampden this season. That's not happened since Walter Smith, the man who we unveiled a statue to lunchtime last Saturday in the build-up to that Scottish Cup final. He's the last man to do that. So we're getting to those kind of levels again. Not as fast as we want, but we are. And I feel as if we're getting to the point where we're looking back, and it's kind of what I was saying. We won't appreciate James Tavernier until he's gone. We won't appreciate what we. I think there was a fear of talking about what 2012 had done to us near the time because we didn't want to admit that it had happened. We want to drive ourselves on and just say, Gaza, Brian Laudrup, 9 in a row, Marvin Andrews, this kind of stuff. It's like Rangers were a loved one who'd had a massive physical catastrophe, a heart attack, a stroke. I'm always making this really poor analogy, but that song is us all gathering around the bedside and saying, you're going to be okay. Remember, this is the stuff we used to get up to, and we're going to do that again. And the whole family is there singing the lyrics to this song, telling this person that we love so much, this being that we love so much that is Rangers, that just take your time, recover properly. We're going to be there, and we're going to get back to those good old days. And I think to hear the Rangers support sentimentalising that as well as admitting that it happened is a massive, massive turning point for us as a kind of in the kind of hive mind, the psychology of the hive mind that is the Rangers support. And I thought it was an unbelievable moment. I didn't realise I was going through it at times. I didn't know this song. I was just singing, "Let Me Tell You That I Love You," and it was quite kind of transitional as well. I don't mean transition in a sense it's going to upset J.K. Rowling, but it does involve cisgender men wearing skirts. As we get towards the end of the season, Scotland are going to the European Championships. They'll be there in 2 weeks' time. Next coming Friday, I'm going to be at Hampden. I'm a Scotland supporter. I'm going to be at Hampden this coming Friday for the friendly against Finland, but I'm not into the whole tartan army thing and the kilt wearing for all various reasons. I've got into it on this pod of my own because I wouldn't bore any other decent podcast with it. It's in one of the previous videos if you can be bothered looking down. But I hate the performative Scottish thing. I hate the kind of, oh, look at me, this is what Scotland's all about. People telling you what Scotland's all about when it's really, like most countries, it's totally multifaceted. There's so much involved in being Scottish. And to hear Rangers fans singing a song, that's to the tune of Caledonia, that is essentially a very mawkish song about Scotland, but taking it back to, I think, a brilliant realism because they are Scottish. We're just singing it, but it's brilliant because we are Scottish, as the Rangers supporters that are singing that song, not because we want to be seen to be Scottish and we want to project an idea of Scottishness that we enjoy. And it's just really good way of taking me from club football into international football. But more than anything else, it completed a kind of circularity of the day itself. I was meeting my friend Robert, as I say, afterwards, so I'm not taking the car to Hampden last Saturday. I live. There's like 3 train stations I can go to. You can't get the underground to Hampden, but it just involves a much bigger walk. And as I say, I'm 22.5 stone here, and it was pretty warm last Saturday. I think you get off at Bridge Street and you walk down. You know it yourself. So there's train stations. There's one. There's a 5-minute walk around the corner, but it only takes you into Queen Street. There's one stop the other way, and you have to change there. It's at Annie's Land, which is a station that's like maybe a 15-minute walk from where I am, and you can get on there, and that goes through it goes to the Glasgow Central low level, where you then go up and you get the train for there to Mount Florida. And there's Highland Station as well, which is maybe a 20-minute walk from where I am, but it lets you cut out the having to change trains at Annie's Land. This is all before you even get to Central, as I say, in the city centre. So I'm like, oh, what one do I go to? And I end up going down to Highland, and I get the train in, and I get off at Central, low level, I walk upstairs, just ready to hit the escalators to get up to the main bit. at Glasgow Central, and then the police and ScotRail employees are shouting at you. Rangers supporters, go out this way, exit here, and walk up the side, and they're taking you onto Hope Street. Hope Street, you can see where this metaphor's gone. They're taking you onto Hope Street, just past the Reardons and all that wee. What's the other boozer called? It's like £3.50 for a pint of tenants. It was, you have to pay me £3.50 to make me drink tenants these days. I can't remember what it's called. I've been in it plenty of times. I think they do Peroni, and I've nipped in there a few times. I need something 5% now these days. I'm just old man. I've nipped in there between, Mountain Florida, arriving at Central and getting the train back out to my neck of the woods and vice versa a few times. Great wee boozer, and across the road you get Solid Rock and is it Alpine Lodge? What's that one called? Anyway, you know where I am, bottom of Hope Street, and they're taking you. So you're walking up Hope Street, and there was just a formative queue, just starting to form. The only reason I noticed where I was supposed to be going is because it's enough. Being so warm last week, people are wearing the jerseys. I wasn't. I would disgrace a Rangers jersey by wearing it. I don't think I do them in quintuple XL anyway. So I'm following the people when they're taking you up basically a rat's neck. It's like you're just walking up a road. It's a vehicle entrance which takes you, it winds round the body of Central Station and it comes out just at kind of platform 13 area, just before the escalators back down to the escalators I was trying to go up originally. And they're kind of kettling us in there slightly, just penning us in and holding us there, obviously, and things. And they're holding you there, and then it was like, right, lads, that's you ready to go, just to go and get the train to, luckily I bought my ticket right the way through, to go and get the Mount Florida train. Is that the Cart Circle? I don't know all of Glasgow really well. So we walk out to go there, and it's all Celtic fans coming in the other direction, up either side of us. So, and there's Polish standing about and all that kind of thing, but it's like, I don't know if they're going to the Boozer or they're trying to go and get the train to Kings Park for the other side of Hampden, a different line, but just one kind of refugee, kind of casualty of life like myself, or he's the ravaged skinny version, and there's a bit of eyeballing going on here and there, but nobody's actually saying anything to MD, because Hampden's this kind of place where I find going to Hampden, you either arrive far too early or just in the nick of time. It just quickly, it's a terrible place to get to in many ways, and you end up, people don't know the ticketing system or that, the turnstiles when they're getting, so there's massive queues as everybody piles in there at the last minute. They'll try to find boozers and all that in an area they don't really know very well, but yeah, it was kind of early. What I'm trying to say is it was actually early, so there wasn't too much of a crowd about. I'd erred on the side of caution. And I think one boy's looking at us, and he's going, cheer up, lads, cheer up. Just that kind of fucking smart arse. Plenty of Polish about and what have you. So, and it's playing of the Celtic kind of, the Baran playing Bohemians who just want a laugh. They're just like Leonardo DiCaprio downstairs in Titanic. We're having a great party. We're permanently, until you beat them, and then they suddenly become a kind of the hardcore prefect. At St Aloysius, who I just don't think it's fair. There's obviously a conspiracy going on here. So it was that kind of vibe, and I'm thinking, just, don't say anything. I mean, just don't get involved in this kind of stuff. Get on the train, pretty empty actually, for a train going out to Hampden, and I get out to Hampden, and it's what the guy's saying, cheer up, lads. I thought, we're all on a downer. The Rangers fans are all kind of straight-faced. We're not exactly, psyched for this cup final. There's a sense of duty about it. So many of us, having lost 3 out of the 4 and drawn the other league game against Celtic this season, we weren't particularly looking forward to the Scottish Cup final. I get out there, and because it's kind of balmy, it was overcast as well as sunny at times last Saturday. I have to say, I've not got the Rangers jersey on, but I noticed everybody sitting in the steps. At the back of the Rangers end, there's these steps going down, everybody's sitting there, just sitting about. Now, the full crowd, it's the total bevied up merchants, they haven't arrived yet. It's no wild or anything. It was 2 o'clock, basically, an hour early. But people are just sitting dotted about these steps, and it was lovely. There was just a kind of chilled vibe, and I was like, what's this reminding me? I thought I was going to sit here as well for a wee while, just take it in. What's this reminding me of? It's fucking Spanish Steps in Rome, where I've been years ago, 1999. April 1999, I was in Rome, and Keats, John Keats, the poet, the romantic poet, he died. His apartment that he died in is now a Keats museum. I was in there. I liked a bit of Keats in my younger days, and he died at just of the Spanish Steps, and I was in the Rangers supporters line, and I think that's the whole thing with last week. It was quite Keatsian. It was quite kind of the memory of John Keats. He died 18 21. He was only 24, 25 years old when he died. 25 years old when he died of the TB. And he's, a lot of kind of people think he's effeminate, and sort of the bad idea they have of the romantics. So Keats is actually, he was a working class boy, didn't go to university, seriously political, and there's a lot of Tory publications about it at the time, the Blackwoods Review and all that panned him, and then it suited, even up to the Victorian period, it suited critics to, just play up this whole thing of the romantics being kind of effetes, effeminate, whatever, just kind of swooning, disappearing up their own backside, really. And the poetry is very, very political. It's not that at all. But I love Keats, and I was thinking about why is it I'm unable to let go last Saturday. It's because it wasn't all bad. It's because there was this burgeoning feeling of, I don't know, just that we're going to be okay. I know that's easy to say. I know that sounds dangerous. You can't just say you're going to be okay. We can't just sit and wait. Or once it's 20 years' time, that's it. We'll be back to normal. You've got to make it happen. You've got to get behind everything we're doing and analyse it and criticise and make sure we actually get there in a practical sense. But I could feel it. I could feel it last week. And there's a Keats poem, a lovely sonnet. When I have fears that I may cease to be, before my pen has gleaned my teeming brain, before high piled books and charactery hold like rich garners the full ripened grain, and blah blah blah. He's basically talking about being a poet, being a writer. He wants to get everything that he's got, these ideas that he's got. He needs to get. He's terrified that he's not going to be able to get them out, get them on the page, get them all published before he dies. Very pertinent. But he ends it, when I fears that I may never look upon thee more, never have relish in that fairy power of unreflecting love, then on the shore of the wild world I stand alone and think, till love and fame to nothingness do sink. He realises it's just about having you, his partner, Fanny Bronobby, that was her name. He's in love with her, and she's much more important to him than his work. That's the main thing in his life. And it's almost like that's what it was last Saturday. We've got Rangers. That's the main thing, is that we have this club of ours, and we've got this support, this massive support. As long as, the season tickets, there's a waiting list and all that. Do you know how difficult it was to renew your season ticket? To change your password 25 times. That was an absolute nightmare. It's like they're trying to say, are you good enough to be a Rangers supporter these days? Have you got the brains? Are you going to carry us forward? There's no way we're going anywhere. And a support that size and that determined, and everything we have been through, we're going to. We could have sold out Hampden twice on our own last week, even though we had a terrible end to the league season. Most people get it, and it's going to be. The main thing is we've got our club, and we're starting to appreciate that, where we came from. We've always appreciated that, but I think we're starting to own what happened in 2012. The game itself last week, watching it from my seat at Hampden, I get into the stadium last week, and I'm sitting in section A, which is the old section J for Rangers supporters my age. I'm about 6 rows from the front. I'm in H, and I'm in seat 65. We're all standing up. It's like you're standing up. You're not sitting down. And the guy next to me, folk are kind of moving back and forth. And the guy next to me, he's in seat 66. The guy next to me, the vagaries of the Rangers ticket office, was the guy I was sat next to at the 2014 Ramsden's Cup final against Wraith Rovers, who either side of our cup final last Saturday were getting put back down into the championship, getting horsed by Ross County in the playoff. We know what that's like as well. We've experienced that. Motherwell, remember that. So it was just stuff like, this is where we've been, this is where we are now. Okay, losing the Scottish Cup final is no good to Rangers. That's something we did as far back as 2016. But it's, as I mentioned in the post-match reaction pod for Jersnet last week, this is our 5th cup final of the 2020s. We'd only been in 3 for the entire 2010s. This season, we've been in successive League Cup finals last season, and this season, and then this is us. We're back for the Scottish Cup final. It hasn't worked out, various reasons for that. We didn't win the game, but we're there, and we're there all the time. And perhaps it's because where I come in, my Rangers consciousness. 1977 is where all my kind of football memories start. I was like 7 years old. I was going to be 8 that summer. And that's just the age where I start remembering stuff. And I started understanding what's going on. I went to my first Rangers game in April 1977. And then we were in 8 straight cup finals, 8 straight Scottish Cup finals from 1976 through to 1983 inclusive. Now, I don't remember the 76 Scottish Cup final. I remember 77's first one I remember watching on television. We lost 1-0 to Celtic. Then I remember watching on television as we won the treble in 78 against Aberdeen, having also won it in 76 against Hearts. And then it's by 1982, I'm at the Scottish Cup final. I remember being really gutted that I wasn't going to get to see the television build-up, the kind of 2-3 hour build-up that you got to the Scottish Cup final on BBC and STV in those days, because it was one of the few games that was shown live on television, and because it became a tradition. It just seemed that Rangers were in the Scottish Cup final every season, because I'm only remembering things from basically from the start of my life as far as I was concerned. Rangers were always in the Scottish Cup final. Then I'm at the game, and I'm getting horsed off Aberdeen after extra time, then we're losing really unluckily, a bit like last week, against Aberdeen in 83. They just won the Cup Winners' Cup as well, Alex Ferguson's great Aberdeen team. But we will never win the league at that point. But we're also regularly, I mean, almost every season in the League Cup final. And it's I don't know if that's what it was, me, just a personal sentimentality. This is when I started supporting. This is what it was like. We were always there or thereabouts at Hampden in cup finals. And the league, in those days, we were nowhere near winning the league. But we got there eventually when I was a young man. And even when we did start winning the league again, it was 11 years. Rangers went without winning the Scottish Cup. And I can remember us winning it. 2022 seems like yesterday to me. So we went from 1981 to 1992 without winning the Scottish Cup, all through the Souness revolution. Graham Souness never won the Scottish Cup, and I don't know. I just feel as if the wailing and the gnashing of teeth, which is essential, it's part of making sure we're going the right direction. We need to know what's good enough and what's not good enough for Rangers. But I feel as if I come away from this game last week after watching it on the television, which I didn't want to do. At the game, there's so much you don't see because it was like 6 rows from the front, and the guy standing next to me, so he kept moving over. So I kept, as things were getting towards the end of the game, you're getting more and more superstitious. I'm drifting over towards seat 65, so I'm kind of straddling 65 and 66. Because Rangers won the Scottish Cup by beating Celtic, who'd just become league champions. We beat them in the 65-66 Scottish Cup. It was after a replay, but I was hoping that was a wee bit of stupid kind of superstition in my point. It didn't work. But it got to, I would say, I had an anniversary, a special anniversary myself and somebody else on Sunday, 26th of May. If you've been watching Jersey Night, you'll know I went to Tennessee last month. I've done a bit prattle on about it. I went to America on holiday, but it was a special holiday that was the main celebration for this kind of anniversary. But the actual date itself, get married, 26th of May. So, well used to having to, put a brave face on it in the 26th. My wife also, she's been putting a brave face on it for the whole time. Obviously, it's been devastating for her entire life to be married to this. But my mum's birthday's the 10th of May. Which is the 1980 Scottish Cup final, the riot where Celtic beat us 1-0 after extra time. Another terrible game, and we get done at the death. That was my mum's birthday that day. People were in the house, to celebrate my mum's birthday while I'm, watching it in my wee black and white portable upstairs through a Rangers scarf that I pulled over my head to kind of, I think it was for good luck or something, but it's kind of creating colour via the black and white. I remember all this kind of stuff. The Scottish Cup final was a massive thing to me. That's a thing to all of us as Rangers fans. But I'm used to that, kind of having to put up, no letting football get in the way of things. It's no more important than life or death. I keep trying to tell myself, but if you hear that song, that Ibroxonia, that'll convince you otherwise. The game itself, I thought, I couldn't watch it. I spent Sunday, obviously, with my wife, and then we went to a hotel in the city centre, something we've never done before. Never actually stayed in Glasgow, a hotel in Glasgow city centre. Why would I? I live in Glasgow, but just to never have done it. So we thought, we'll just do that. We'll just do that on the day. We'll spend all our money in the holiday, but we'll just spend the rest that we've got left. Make a special day of it. Go to this hotel, one of the places that's kind of more expensive than it is posh. And it was, what have I got here? 34 minutes. I've talked far too long here, but what the hell? Nobody's watching this anyway. Again, it's like, well, can't take the car because of the ULEZ thing. Let's just, good laugh. Let's just pack a bag and take the train. Get a train into the city centre. And again, it was one of these stations do I go to? And I realised that the whole thing's working in a circle. The whole thing's just kind of, I'm basically surrounded by train tracks, that can take me into Glasgow. And we got off at Charing Cross this time because it was nearer, and the whole place is a building site. I know, this is why we've got this deal for this hotel, because every other hotel in the area, I've not been in Glasgow City Centre for ages, is getting built. It's an absolute building site. But it was great. We just did it. We, get a wee snack and a few beers and you get in there. We got a late checkout and have to check out until 1 o'clock the next day. Bank holiday Monday, so my wife's off, I'm off. And we'll have a lovely evening meal. There was a deal on for that, so we got a really expensive bottle of wine for nothing. Oh, it was brilliant. I got a couple of old fashions later on in the bar, just a special occasion. Expensive stuff. I love an old fashioned. I've only had about 5 in my life. That's what I can afford. And the next day, I had beautiful breakfast. Fantastic. So we're getting to the place, check in, right, that's fine. Straight down to the bar. Let's get I want a wee meal as well. I wanted a lunchtime meal. And it's, I was sitting there. It's super, it thinks it's really posh, that kind of, low light and everything really groovy and all that. But it's letting me in, so it's obviously not that posh. But I'm sitting there enjoying the jazz music, this kind of, an unending loop of jazz. And next thing, a lassie walks past the bar, Celtic top on, and a Celtic scarf. I mean, it's roasting, but she's got a Celtic scarf on, a pink, green and white Celtic scarf. English, talking loudly about how she's still celebrating and what's just can't get away. You can't get away, but why would you want to? Because it's all part of, it's us that are making them so happy, so that's, but I'm getting texts from Celtic supporting friends and all that. So that's fine, just go on with it, enjoy ourselves. And then the next day, as we're checking out, we checked out, I was about noon or something, just take my time. It was great, lovely room and what have you. It was like a hotel in itself. And let's milk this because we can't do this kind of thing very often. And we went down to just walking back down to the central station. And we went for a coffee. And suddenly I was sitting on Hope Street. I was sitting on Hope Street again, and we're going down that bit. We're going down towards the low level, and I'm basically walking past the bit that I'd entered on Saturday for the Scottish Cup final, the bit that had come out of Central Station to start the journey. After the game on Saturday, I went to meet my mate Robert, and I was saying, Ibrox, what's that? Is he here, Ibrox Sonia getting sung today? I gave it that name. Robert's a musician, and he's absolutely brilliant. He's in a group just now. He's been in lots of different groups and done lots of different musical stuff. And he was saying, it was a fella, it's Graham Mullen. I think the guy is on YouTube. There's lots of really good recordings of it on YouTube. What says, but before all them, he knows I think it might be the guy that does the vocals, Bobby Parks. I'm not sure if it's him or somebody else, so excuse me. But Graham had got in touch with Robert through this mutual. Can we record this? I got this idea for this song. Can we record it? I don't know how many years ago it is. And Robert's like, aye, come on. And so Robert, that night, he sends me the demo. Robert did, my mate did the actual demo. He recorded a version of it just to see if it was working and all that. And it's absolutely fantastic. And he says when they got it down on a memory stick. Now, funny, isn't it funny how I can never remember the name memory stick? And Robert's right, I better put a title on this. What you want? And the song doesn't. It's Ibrox Stadium. You're calling me. He says, well, Robert's like, it's Caledonia. The tune of Caledonia, so why don't you just call it Ibroxonia? Just write something, it's fine. And that's what, so my mate actually, he maybe recorded the first version, and he gave it the title as well. It's quite a thing, and it was beautiful, because I was still feeling, I was gutted, quite devastated on Saturday night. Robert's younger than me, but more mature than me. He's got other things in his life going on, and it was, it's a good thing. It's a very therapeutic thing to meet up with a mate who can give you a bit of chat and kind of sort you out and all that, and I'll do the same for him sometimes. I hope get a bit of perspective on stuff, just get a few beers, chill out, and try and see life. But I was hurting a lot, but I couldn't let it go, and a lot of the stuff that happened in the game I didn't really understand what had gone on because of the view I had at Hampton. So it was Monday, I would say, before, and when I left Robert, he just walked straight up to Mount Florida Station. That's the other thing. Let's say crowds go away. I walked up to Mount Florida Station about 10 o'clock that night, and it was the train for Central was arriving on platform 2. It's usually platform 1. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not very good at the Glasgow trains or local trains. I don't know. I'm an Ayrshire boy at heart. So I get, what's happening here? And it's gone the other direction, obviously. And I'm thinking, have I made a mistake here? How drunk am I? It definitely said it was going to Central, but it's this Cathcart circle. And I'm thinking about being under this, this beautiful big white thing here, when we're doing the tifo at the beginning of the game, and you're looking up the way as you're holding this thing up to the skies, and I see the sky at Hampden, and Hampden's a beautiful stadium. I mean, it's not a terrible view for the stadium. It's an impractical stadium, but to look at, rather than to look at the game from, but to look at Hampden on a match day, I think it's still one of the most beautiful stadiums in the world. It's kind of taken the spectacular aspect that it used to have through the size of the crowds it had, when it was just basically terracing around three sides. And it's transferred that into this kind of beautiful elliptical roof that gives it a real symmetry to the crowd. At Hampden, it's higgledy-piggledy outside. You're entering above. It goes below ground level. It goes above ground level. You're having to climb up massive hills. You're going down hills towards the north stand. You're going up a wee hill at the back of the west stand. You're climbing up the north face of the Eiger to go into the east stand. It's all over the place outside, but you get inside, and it's just this symmetrical elliptical bowl, which I think really works. And when you're looking up that roof, the fascias with the floodlights are on in front of the fascias of the fascias of the roof, but it's almost kind of circular, and it's framing the sky that was blue with white clouds, and it was just a gorgeous moment. Something I took into myself, and it spoke of this whole circularity of Rangers coming back to what they were when I was growing up. Which was a couple of trebles and then heading towards greatness under Souness and Smith. I feel as if we're going to get there again, and this being in this circle. I don't know. It was a whole thing, and getting back to Hope Street on the Monday without even thinking about it. Back on Hope Street, and hopefully we're going to get into that celebration station that we know so well pretty soon. So I think it's about Tuesday. I was ready to watch the game again, watch the highlights. I started trying to watch the highlights. BBC Scotland. I must still have been a downer, because the montage they had at the beginning of the highlight show on BBC Scotland showed Graham Murty and Pedro Caixinha going in their arse on the touchline, and Henrik Larsson scoring against Porto in the UEFA Cup final. I think this is horrifically biased. I'm not, can't watch this. And he didn't show you the tifo, the magnificent tifo that the Rangers support got together for that game. I think I'm at the bottom of the R. I think that's where I was positioned. And they didn't show the fantastic firework display that we had at the start of the second half either. I don't think TNT really showed that either. Fantastic, and it felt as if I was feeling bitter, still feeling bitter. I felt we're being, obliterated here. They don't want to cover us. They don't want to acknowledge that we exist. Try ignoring Rangers. And I watched the game, but I immediately switched off the BBC highlights. So on Tuesday night, I watched the first half of the entire live broadcast on TNT. I recorded that as well. And Michael Stewart is watching the game he wants to see. It's incredible. Michael Stewart he calls out stuff. He calls out the ridiculousness of Sterling's booking, for example. But he's desperate that Celtic are dominating this game. Celtic are just passing it about at the back, controlling the game. I thought, I know that they are passing it about at the back, but it's because they can't get through us. Jack Butland had 2 saves to make in the entire game. And they're both within the space of about 30 seconds of each other. The 89th minute and the 90th minute. He made the first one. He didn't make the second one. He made the first one and he threw the ball straight out to Tav, who gave it to Diamonde. And from that moment on, it gets back. It's coming back at us, and that's me lose a goal because a whole series of reasons why we conceded that goal. But Jack Butland didn't make the second save he had to make. But through the first half, although we looked a bit, Tav was still getting done by Maeda was doing Tav, but we managed to protect Tav from that. But Tav's also putting all these corners on top of Joe Hart that are giving him a real problem. And I thought, for a team that's getting dominated, apparently, we seem to be getting 4 or 5 corners in this first half. Celtic have barely managed one. It wasn't perfect by any manner of means, and you've got to be careful. You don't want to be ghettoised by how bad Rangers have been in games against Celtic this season. We've never been far away. But there was definitely, for a start, we weren't 2 goals down at half-time, but there was definitely a massive improvement. And the thing for me was Raskin. I had no idea. Last Friday, I'm talking with Craig on the Gersnet preview project. I can't see how Raskin's going to play. It's got to be John Lundstrom, because Raskin, under his compatriot Philip Clement, he's been injured for a while. But anytime he's reappeared, really anonymous. And I thought he was anonymous in the previous 2 league games. It was a kind of a placeholder, I thought, for Lundstrom until his suspension was up. I couldn't imagine how we couldn't play Lundstrom. I knew why we didn't want to. I'm not blind to that, obviously, but I thought Lundstrom's going to have to come back in and we'll build something different round about him, perhaps. But no, he started off with a couple of fantastic interceptions, Raskin, in the opening minutes of that game, and he ended up being absolutely tremendous. But summing up the way things are going for Rangers in general, he's also responsible for the push on Joe Hart that let Celtic away with it and it reminded me, to all intents and purposes, of the 2019-20 League Cup final. Steven Gerrard's first attempt at winning a major trophy with Rangers. Celtic were going for their 10th straight trophy. This was them. It turned out to be them at the start of their 4th consecutive treble. But it was, weather was the opposite. It was as dank and dark on that day as it was beautifully sunny and warm last Saturday. But that same thing where you could feel the fear coming from the east end of the stadium. You know, the Celtic fans had their lovely little green and white flag display at the beginning of the game. Very nice. But that was really it until the moment that our goal is ruled out. And it was the same in 2019-20. Both VAR moments, the absence of VAR letting Celtic score that offside winner in that League Cup final 5 seasons ago, and the presence of VAR being the only reason that goal get ruled out last week. I don't know, I'm not got a problem with VAR, but I don't know why Greg Taylor isn't punished for having both hands round Nico Raskin. I don't know why it spots one thing but not the other, because he's fouling Raskin before Raskin stupidly puts his hands on Joe Hart's back. Joe Hart is not making that cross, and it was really lucky. Joe Hart, same thing in the Scottish Cup semi-final. The last 2 trips to Hampden for Joe Hart, he missed that penalty against Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup semi-final when he thought he was on to a winner, and he nearly get them put out of the Scottish Cup, and his legacy nearly went down the Swanee last week as well. Where he was absolutely terrible trying to get to that ball, and Raskin, I doubt, had any kind of influence on him. But he felt it. He felt the touch, and that was the excuse he needed. He got away with it, and he really nearly made a complete fool of himself at Hampden in a way he hadn't since he played there for England, and a Celtic striker. He made a complete fool of him twice that day. But yeah, that was the way it worked out. Nobody was perfect last week, but I don't think anybody in a Rangers jersey was really terrible either. The central defence, Ben Davies and Balogun, which we're obviously fearing because they had a lot of game time together, they were great, kind of athletic, you know, they're tall, they're rangy, they're very dexterous almost the way they defend, their interceptions, known intelligent when to go. Physicality, they've obviously got that. You have to play at this level, but mostly it's just based on intelligence, anticipation, speed of thought and movement, and the two of them were fantastic. And the midfield, Sterling and Diamandi in particular, I think you saw something, a nascent competence, a verging on confidence. They hate Celtic. You know, I don't think they do actually hate them. You need to know somebody really well to hate them. But they definitely despise the idea. They're taking it personal. And they've got the street smarts. They know how to handle them. You know, John Sterling literally handling them a lot of the time. But if anybody did get past him, he was finding a way to fall over them, kind of innocuously. A foul, but not in any way brutal. Has the tackle of the match and is booked for it. Celtic could quite easily have had a penalty. Ben Davies, Seema does kick Alistair Johnston, although Alistair Johnston's been a bit of a dick towards him. Diamandi, towards the end, after we'd lost the goal, he gets kind of pushed about and he flicks himself around in the air, and I think he does try to kick whoever it is in the chest or in the face. He hates them. He got away with that one. We got away with a few as well as what Celtic got away with, but it was the fear you could feel. And the first time I heard Celtic cheering their fans, the first time you heard their fans last week was when we had our goal disallowed, and the first time I heard them in that League Cup final 2019-20 was when Alfredo missed that penalty against them. Also, I decided, was that 60 minutes or something in the game, maybe later in the game, but it was just that same thing. And we know what happened the following season after that League Cup final. We dominated them, absolutely dominated them. Same thing they've done to us this season, exactly the same. We beat them in the Scottish Cup, and we beat them 3 times and drew with them once in the league. Same thing they've done to us this season. So I would like to think it's that straightforward. That's what's going to happen next season. Celtic, of course, will strengthen in the summer, so we shouldn't in any way think that just because we've got closer to them in this particular game, their sheer, the fact that they're used to winning, that's not a slagging, that's what you're aiming for. I'm not in any way trying to do that kind of horrible Celtic thing of making our defeat, you know, mean more than their win. Celtic have won the Scottish Cup, they've won the double, fair and square. You know, there's a few moments that we can maybe debate, like the 3 goals we've had ruled out against them in various games, 2 of which gave us a lead. The other one, it would have given us a lead. The other one, which would have given us an early equaliser. But never mind. These are the things that happen. There definitely was moments where we got away with stuff last week, so let's not go too far down the conspiracy route. But I'm not trying to take anything away from Celtic, and Celtic can, as I say, they can strengthen. They've got the Champions League money guaranteed. They can strengthen in the summer and maybe move on another level. and just get further away from us again. And all we've done is just failed. Just got really close, but failed every time we've played them this season. I would like to think, though, that there seems to be a body of knowledge there amongst younger players. Diamandi and Sterling, I think, stuck out, and Raskin as well. No fear of Celtic whatsoever, and have a lust to getting them beaten. That's really good. That's good to see. If a change in the guard does come, I think we've got boys in there that are going to have us in safe hands. But yeah, I eventually watched. I watched the second half on Wednesday night, and it's just something inside me. I don't know. I think I'd seen that we'd played a lot better than I realised, although far from good enough still. It just made me feel as if everything's going to be okay. And even if it takes a few more years, we are going to get there, and we're getting used to going to Hampden. It's just something that's happening slowly without you realising it. I'm not saying we're back. We're not back there by any manner of means. We need to be winning doubles. We need to be winning trebles. We need to be retaining league titles before we are Rangers again. But that's on the park. Off the park, I just felt as if last Saturday everything had kind of come round. It all come back together. And as a support, I think we're once again reassured. We're just focusing on the here and now. We've got to get things won. But all the other worries, I think, even though James Bisgrove has disappeared, but he'll disappeared for billions of pounds. That's, I think, all those other worries about the infrastructure and the way we're heading off the park, they've really eased for me. So enjoy your summer trips. I'm probably going to talk to you a few times in this little pod. I mean, there'll be plenty of other stuff I need to get out my system, but if you've stuck with this particular video, thanks very much. And remember, it's Gersnet that are responsible for anything you disagreed with in this video. The rest of it was on me. Thanks, folks.